My Lords, I understand why noble lords opposite would like to terminate debate, but I think there is a case for going a little bit further. Since noble lords have allowed themselves some personal reflections, perhaps I could first add one of my own, which is that when I was introduced to this House, one of my sponsors was a crossbench hereditary peer. I won't mention his name because I hadn't told him in advance that I was going to make these remarks. It all went back to the fact that over 40 years ago I used to play bridge with his mother, and when he made his maiden speech shortly after his 21st birthday, I sat with his mother in the peeresses' gallery and listened to him, and we remained in touch. And so I thought when I was being introduced it was time for some payback, and he willingly agreed, adding that he had never in the whole of his time in the House previously been asked to sponsor anybody at an introduction, so he was very happy to do so. He's served throughout that time because he survived the Blair cull, and he's been committed to the House, and he's worked hard. And what so many people find unfair, and as I say, I haven't discussed these remarks with him at all, is that he is to be expelled not because of lack of merit, not because of lack of commitment, not because of lack of expertise, but rather simply because of the way in which he entered the House. And as the noble Baroness Lady Butler-Sloss said, there seems to be an inherent unfairness in that. Yeah. And so I turn to the amendment which I support, and I just want to emphasize that this amendment, of course, is not about the heredity principle. It's about the principle of expulsion. And I want to comment that we seem to be taking it for granted that an act of expulsion is sort of okay, whereas in fact it's almost entirely without precedent. There is the baleful precedent of Pride's Purge, and since then the only example of expulsion of people as a class from Parliament was what happened in 1999. And to take that as a precedent so that it becomes, if you like, a normal thing for groups to be expelled from Parliament, from one house or another, but more likely from this house, according to the sort of, I won't say the whims, but shall we say the sort of the vagaries of what might appear in manifestos, is a very bad principle indeed. Not only, it doesn't affect the hereditary peers only, it affects all of us, because one can create those criteria for expulsion according really to anything that fits, and achieve political and other objectives in doing so. So I simply wanted to make that point, that I think when we say a whole group of us is to be expelled, we appear to have a precedent for it in 1999. I grant you that. But it's not a good precedent. It is not a precedent that should be repeated. And the proposal made by my noble friend, Lady Mubarak, avoids that, and it puts that danger at some distance from us. So I really think there are broader reasons for accepting it than simply our admiration and friendship for the particular individuals involved in this case. There are broader principled reasons for accepting it, and I'd certainly urge the front bench to consider those on constitutional grounds.
My Lords, I rise to...
Go on.
I rise to support.
Go on.
Keep going.
Go on.
I rise...
Lola.
Lola.